Welcome back to The Black Table on the Black Star Network. This is our weekly hour devoted to exploring ideas and subjects of general importance to people of African descent and to all fighting to build a better society. This week at the Black Table, we are honored to discuss a subject, a place, an idea, a dream, and a reality that everybody on the planet should know about. One of the most important places in the history of African people in what we call the United States of America, a place called Mound Bayou. Perhaps some people have heard that name, Mound Bayou, and if you haven't, perhaps you've heard the name Emmett Till. Perhaps you've heard the name Jefferson Davis, but you might not know about Jefferson Davis, his brother Ben, and a place called Hurricane, a plantation in Mississippi that birthed and raised a young boy by the name of Isaiah Montgomery, who would be the founder of Mound Bayou. But everybody from Booker T. Washington to a man who was named for Theodore Roosevelt, who became a surgeon, a man, T.R.M. Howard, who led what became a hospital in Mound Bayou, run by and for Black people. None of this is fantasy. We've been joined today by the brothers who have come together with their father and the community of Mound Bayou to create the Mound Bayou Museum of African American Culture and History. Herman Johnson Jr., who was a native of Mound Bayou, has been actively involved in philanthropic endeavors for his full adult life, alongside his brother, Reverend Darrell Johnson, and his father, Herman Johnson Sr. He co-founded the Mound Bayou Movement nonprofit, aimed to support the revitalization of Mound Bayou and the Mississippi Delta area. Currently, Herman serves as executive director of the Mound Bayou Museum of African American Culture and History. His brother, Reverend Darrell Johnson, who is, of course, co-founder, is the former mayor of Mound Bayou. Founder and pastor of the Walk of Faith Covenant Church, and founder of the Walk of Faith Ministry, headquartered in Mound Bayou. President of Omnicast Media Corporation, and one-time owner of WRDC in Boyle, Mississippi. He founded that Mound Bayou Movement Incorporated to assist in directing public interest and finances to the area to restore Mound Bayou and the surrounding area and to enhance the ability to attract commerce to the area of the Mississippi Delta that we're referring to. So today, to discuss the museum, the initiatives and everything going on and associated with Mound Bayou, and to attract all of us down there, so one day we can do a live episode of the Black Table and maybe get Roland Martin Unfiltered down there as well. The Johnson brothers, Herman Johnson Jr. and Reverend Darrell Johnson, Mound Bayou Museum. Welcome, brothers, to the Black Table.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure to have you all. We talked a little bit earlier, a couple of weeks ago, and we thought that there would be no better way to take up the new season of the Black Table by talking about Black self-determination. And in this country, there's no better place to talk about it. People have heard of Black Wall Street, and maybe some people have heard of some of these all Black towns in places like Oklahoma and all the way out to the west. But Mound Bayou is the model for all of it. Mr. Johnson, Brother Herman Johnson Jr., why don't you begin by giving us a sense when we say the words Mound Bayou, what are we talking about? What is Mound Bayou, Mississippi?
Mound Bayou is a model for the African American community. One of the things that we do here in this museum is that we show the contrast between how a lot of us came up here in this country, and also the contrast between that and then also what happened here in Mound Bayou. It was a whole different story. Mound Bayou was basically, in a very small way, its own country, and it was designed that way, and it was self-determination, also with innovation. Mound Bayou was very, very innovative. A lot of things that we know about in the public life came from Mound Bayou. The first HMO in the country was here. The first African-American manufacturing venture in the country was here. And I can go on, but there were a lot of things that were invented and started here in Mound Bayou. And for the most part, the country doesn't know about it, but it people need to know the beginning of Mound Bayou and how Mound Bayou progressed through the years.
Interesting. Thank you, Brother Herman. Reverend Johnson, Brother Darrell, I teased at the beginning the story of Hurricane and Benjamin Davis, the older brother of Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy. But I was fascinated. I teach a class at Howard Law School, and every semester we read about reparations and we focus on what happened at Hurricane Mississippi. But the key person, and I must say, brothers, thank you all, because when we talked, I had not yet gotten a copy of LaFloria Gauthier's book on Isaiah Thornton Montgomery, but I've since gotten it since I talked to y'all the first time. So to add to my collection, I had a lot of books around what happened at Hurricane. But could you talk a little bit about the birth of Mound Bayou and where it came from? Because it almost seems like a fictional story, except it actually happened.
It's a real story. A lot of our stories, just like stories out of the Bible, they seem to be fictional, but they are real, and they set the tone for our future. And what went on in Hurricane was a powerful idea. It was an incubator for thought. It was a place where people were able to take time to think about what of the future. And those words are really, really important to the Montgomerys, because they lived those words on that plantation. It was a place where a little boy growing up in slavery, his dad, Benjamin Montgomery, comes up on a plantation and is given the keys to the law library, the whole wall. Let's read. I imagine he had more books than you have behind you. and so this guy self-educates himself. And he has a vision, and on the inside of him, his heart, that he would never get to see the manifestation of it, he began to release his vision to his son. And his son seems just like the Bible when it talked about Joseph that was sold into slavery, but it was for a greater good. These guys learned the thoughts and other things that was going on in the homes of white people that actually ran something called the Confederacy. And they were able to examine them, talk to them, and hear their thoughts. And on the inside of Isaiah T. Montgomery was a little seed of what about Black people creating their own country, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And so some of the structures that was going on in him was, you must be able to educate these people. You must be able to get these people educated. And so that's where it started. These people became geniuses in all types of places, engineering. They ran the whole plantation, one of the greatest plantations of the South. They end up running this plantation, and they end up being the most successful plantation. And cotton was number one on this plantation. It was number one in the world. And so from that, when they end up coming to Mound Bayou and starting their own place, in their heart was to have on the inside of them a country, and where they could get a place where God and freedom live, because they saw that it was not happening during that time. In the midst of their great love of bringing people together, there was a great division in our country. You had the South against the North. You had people fighting against each other. Slavery was a mid-issue. And these were former slaves saying, but if we prescribe to the very tenets of our country, that we will be the greatest country in the world. And that's what Montgomery had. And that's what he started in Mound Bayou.
Yes, sir. That's a perfect place for us to pause for our first break here at the Black Table, Reverend Johnson. When we come back to the Black Table, we're going to discuss the birth of Mound Bayou and the incredible heights that city achieved and what it represented to Black folk in the 19th and early 20th century. So back in a moment with the Johnson brothers here at the Black Table on the Black Star Network.
You must be my new lieutenant governor.
I'm ready for duty. I think I can make a difference.
Just be a good girl.
I'm gonna need some dinner and a lot of wine.
That's
I really don't think that he thinks I'm qualified.
What you gonna do?
Pump my shoulders.
When you love something and you earn something, you fight for it.
Kids, do you know who this is? Mary J. Blige.
Find a
thought we was about to be attacked by all of Nick Cannon's kids at once.
Welcome back to the Black Table here on the Black Star Network. We are talking with Herman Johnson Jr. and Reverend Daryl Johnson, and they are telling us about the history of Mound Bayou before we get into a deeper discussion of the Mound Bayou Museum of African American Culture and History and the initiatives that are going on here. It's interesting, Brother Herman Johnson, as my students learn about what happened at Hurricane, the plantation, and the betrayal of the Montgomerys by the family of Davis. The idea that they, as you say, Reverend Johnson, not only did they grow that cotton there, but they turned a profit and actually contributed money to the Union Army, the Freedmen's Bureau. It's like these guys, they knew what they were doing. But of course, there was a betrayal that they were supposed to own that land after the Civil War. The Davis family sold them out after the old man died. And they said, well, that's all right. We still going to build our thing. So when they go out there to outline Mound Bayou, why is it named, Brother Herman Johnson? Why is it named Mound Bayou? And what was the vision and what was the project to begin with?
Well, when they started Mound Bayou, it was wilderness. When they came here, it was swampland, plenty of all types of animals, jaguars, bears, everything that you can think of in those days. And the woods were thick here in this area. And the area that they came to was a swampland. So they ended up coming and they bought that land, 840 acres in the beginning. And the railroad gave them license to sell 37,000 acres surrounding Mound Bayou because they knew people were coming up from the Vicksburg area. And as they're clearing the trees, they don't have anything here. They got to start somewhere. And when they start, they need a place to sleep. So they're working all day and they end up sleeping on a train. The train would take them to Memphis and they would get off and they would get on that southbound train coming from Memphis back to this area. And as they got to this area, they would ask the engineer would ask them, where do I let you guys off? And they would say, let us off where the two bayous converge with the Indian Mound. And if you say that 3 times in a row, it becomes Mound Bayou. That's how the name starts.
Wow. Well, I tell you, I mean, and as you said at the beginning in the first block, the first HMO in the country, we know the name Medgar Wiley Evers, and I don't want to skip over into the history. We don't have a lot of time, but could either of you speak to some of the major historical figures that end up in Mound Bayou? It seems to me I recall reading that Booker T. Washington came through there and said, this is an example of what Black people can do. Reverend Johnson?
I would make statements like Booker T. Washington hung around Mound Bayou. It was important that the National Negro Business League right-hand man, there's a book by David Jackson called The Chief Lieutenant of the Tuskegee Machine, which was a book on Charles Banks. Charles Banks started a bank in Mound Bayou. It was so important because that was the seat of finances and commerce for this area and the greatness of Black people during that late 1800s, early 1900s. Charles Banks started the bank around 1907, 1908. And Theodore Roosevelt shows up 1907 on his train. I call it Choo Choo One. Shows up, stands on the back, look up and down the road there, and knowing that in 1887 this was a swampland, these people had white picket fences around their large homes built on the same style that they did down in Vicksburg when they were looking at the way other people lived. And he called that he said, look, this is the jewel of the Delta. And these are 100% Black people. That's what he said. He called it 100% Negroes. And so you would have Theodore Roosevelt showing up. Booker T. Washington actually, I say, mentored Charles Banks during that time because he really pushed people starting cities, starting businesses. And Charles Banks was his actually the vice president of National Negro Business League. And we just celebrated 124 years of the National Business League in Atlanta, Georgia, just a few weeks ago. The fact is that you had all of these greats coming to Mound Bayou. Medgar and Merle Evers came from Alcorn State University. Go Alcorn Braves. But anyway, they came from Alcorn, came to Mound Bayou, and had their job, their first job. Medgar Evers had such a powerful thought, right in line with Isaiah T. Montgomery. He was pushing it to establish our relationship back in Africa and to have African United States relationship. And Lord, what would have happened if his thoughts would have manifested just as Isaiah T. Montgomery, when he died in 1924, there were statesmen that came here trying to push the idea, because he was talking to the president of the United States at that time, to purchase Congo, so that blacks can go back and forth and have a place of United States in Africa during that time. And you have to understand the historical significance of that as well. But you had all of these different people, just like you said, and Dr. T.R.M. Howard shows up in Mound Bayou, and in the late 30s and early 1940s, and then ends up in the medical director of the Taborian Hospital. For the first time, black people can go through the front door of a hospital in this part of the country. So you had all of this, and my dad shows up during that time. He takes Medgar Evers' job as Medgar Evers is going out being the NAACP field secretary. My dad sits down in that same office and takes his job here in Mound Bayou, Mississippi. That's why we're here today. So you have all of these things and all of these people that we celebrate.
Thank you, Reverend Johnson. And when we come back, we're going to take a break. And when we come back here at the Black Table, we're going to pick up this story with the arrival in Mississippi and in Mound Bayou of Herman Johnson Sr. And that is going to pave the runway for the discussion of what is going on today in Mound Bayou, and particularly around the Mound Bayou Museum. So back here at the Black Table in a moment.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
Let's go. Truth Talks is the fastest growing show about pop culture, and now we're exclusively on our own channel.
Go ahead, say it, man.
Attention! We're back.
We gotta stop letting this slide.
Bigger and stronger than ever.
I mean, I just have questions.
Season 2 is reloading May 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
What's up?
With new hosts.
Let me tell you what damn time it is.
And big celebrity surprises.
Kiss my behind. It's Oprah Winfrey.
Subscribe today at Truth Talks Live.
Give black people what they need, and we'll show them for you.
And don't miss out on all the upcoming viral moments.
Simulcasting weeknights at 8 p.m. on Roland Martin Unfiltered and Black Star Network and Truth Talks Live.
I'll see you there.
Welcome back to the Black Table here on the Black Star Network. Remember to support the Black Star Network. Our independent black media is very important, and there's no more important platform than this one right now, especially in this moment in U.S. and world history. When we paused, Reverend Johnson had brought us right up to the lip of the appearance of his father, the Johnson brothers' father, Herman Johnson Sr., Herman Johnson Sr., who, of course, is a proud Southern University Jaguar. The family seems to be keeping it in the SWAC between Southern, Alcorn, and Jackson State. But it was Herman Johnson Sr. who succeeded Medgar Evers, working for Dr. T.R.M. Howard, and who was also served at one time as vice mayor of Mound Bayou, and also co-founder and former president of the Delta Housing and Development Corporation. We understand that Mr. Johnson Sr. Has passed his 94th year, and we are truly honored here on the Black Star Network and the Black Table to have him with us. That is Herman Johnson Sr. in the flesh. Welcome to the Black Table, Baba Johnson.
Thank you so very much for inviting me.
We're glad to have you. We are glad to have you, Baba. Talk to us about your time in Mound Bayou and the things that you have tried to accomplish. You came to Mound Bayou. Was this before the murder of Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobler? No, that's not true, is it?
Oh, yes. Well, could I tell you a little bit about how I got to Mound Bayou?
Please, please.
Okay. What happened? My aunt and my mother had got separated when they were real young. I was living in Winsboro, Louisiana, and my aunt was living in Mound Bayou. I'd never heard of Mound Bayou, but she came to Mound Bayou, and she was telling about an all African American town where certain things were going on that wasn't going on in the towns around. So she invited my mother, and then later on I went to Mound Bayou and got a chance to see what was going on. But then I ended up going to the Army and coming back, and I married a girl in Mound Bayou. So when I cutting things short, after I finished high school at Franklin Pass Training School, of course you all already know that training school meant you couldn't be taught like white folk, you had to be trained like animals. Then I went to A&M University, or to Southern University, which was a university that at A&M, even after you finish school, you go in, you learn agriculture and mechanical and how to fix the plows and the tractors and so forth. But anyway, when I came back, I did school so I finished Southern University in business education. And when I got ready to leave, my director, department head, asked me whether I was going, and I said I was going to New York or Chicago. She said, "I know you're going by Mound Bayou to pick up your wife." Said, "See Dr. Howard." So when I talked to Dr. Howard, he had a job for me, and it was a job that had just left and was going to the state and NAACP. So I took his job. Now, and I was doing the same thing basically that he was doing, but one of the things I didn't do as well as he did was to go out and check with the agents and talk to the customers about voting rights. And I didn't get into that as well as Meg ever did, but I did work with and when we sold the company 2 years later after Dr. Howard had to leave because the Ku Klux Klan said he was going to kill him. But anyway, he went to Chicago and started a medical clinic. And I'm skipping a little bit because I have certain things I wanted to tell you about Dr. T.R.M. Howard. He's not known as well as he probably should because he started a whole lot of things. Say all I'm saying about him in a few minutes, but getting back to Mound Bayou and my being involved in Mound Bayou, I found out that the electoral system, and I had to vote when I got at Bolivar County in Mound Bayou. I could vote in Mound Bayou, but I had to go to Cleveland to vote national, and I had to do poll tax. So I was doing poll taxes. Not poll taxes. I had to pay poll taxes in order to vote. So they gave me a Department of the Constitution to try to decipher and tell them what I thought about it. But I didn't have no problem with that because I was educated and I went to school and I knew all the Constitution, but I knew the people who were giving me the test didn't know it. It just so happened a white man was taking the test along with me and he was upset because they had him doing the same thing. I told him, just write something down because they don't know any more than you do. So you just write something down about the Constitution. So I wrote mine. And I knew what I was explaining about the Constitution and passed it on, so I passed. And I did that for many years because I have a whole stack of $2 and $3 and $4 poll tax receipts at the museum that I took. But I got involved I got involved in other community development. and I started Mound Bayou Development Corporation, which was to assist the city in economic development. And again, I was involved with the Mound Bayou Investment Corporation, which was a part of the Development Corporation, who did business and purchase land. And members of the community paid into it, but we took that money and put it on a big 4x8 board out by the post office, so everybody could see the name, what they had contributed. Everybody in town could see it, their names and how much they contributed. And when we used the Development Corporation to purchase some land to sell back to the city, and we made a profit, everybody got the money back and more based on the investment that we made. So those kind of things, it just so happened in economic development, there was some money that was left over, about $12 million left over from the United States for economic development. And the state of Mississippi had $12 million, and it was distributed about 16 towns. So they said Mound Bayou might get 100,000. It might not get anything. Now, the mayor of Mound Bayou had looked into the regulation and found out that we could apply for $5 million. So we told them that, and they laughed at us and said, "Y'all go on out and you probably won't get anything, and go do your application." So what we did is we did applications. We went to Washington for about a week, walked the hall, and got it funded.
Yes,
and
sir.
For 4 years later, people were mad at us for getting that funding. We got it.
Well, I tell you, Baba Herman, that not only is that a remarkable story, it definitely shows us the resilience, not only of Black folk in Mississippi, but how our people have survived to this day. We're going to take a pause here. And in our last break, we are going to take that remarkable story of Herman Johnson Sr. right into the Johnson brothers telling us about how we can all be involved in that work through the institution there that they have founded called the Mound Bayou Museum, African American Culture and History. So right back in a moment here at the Black Tape.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Welcome back to the Black Table here on the Black Star Network. Remember to support the Black Star Network. All of the shows, all of the programming, this is Black-owned media. Doesn't get any blacker than this. When we left, the remarkable Herman Johnson Sr. had walked us through some of the high points in his life and the long-range struggle in Mound Bayou. Brother Herman Jr., y'all's father said he kept his poll tax receipts and they could be seen at the museum. What is the Mound Bayou Museum? I read up about it. I can't wait to visit in person. Tell us about this museum, brother, and how we can get involved in that work.
Well, we think that this museum is critical information for the country because Mound Bayou's the way it came through the plantation and through the years that Mound Bayou was progressing to the point that it is now. And of course, we think that the diaspora should be involved in this because, like I said, it's a critical part of our history. Even though we're a small town, we're in Mississippi, a lot of things that people think that should be set aside, but actually we should be elevated because this story is very, very necessary for the understanding of who we are as a people. And so if people want to get involved, we have a website, moundbayumuseum.org. And there are different things there that show you, you can also always donate. But we also need people to that are, script writers or book writers or things like that to get the to come and find out this incredible story and how valuable it is in this city. And we think that with the help of people coming in and understanding the value of this museum, that we can help restore the value of this city, because this is ours. And this is one thing that Black people started, not Dallas, not Houston, not Atlanta, things like that. This is something we started and that we can take value in and we can uplift and revitalize. And so there's a lot of opportunity here in Mound Bayou. So we just ask people to be involved. Our website is moundbayumuseum.org. And then the phone number is 662-441-2233. And we're here to do, whatever is whatever people feel is on their heart to help us get along.
Thank you, Brother Herman. Reverend Darrell, in looking at y'all's website and then being in conversation with y'all before this, a remarkable curation of collections. This Dr. Simpson collection, the Mound Bayou Museum exhibit, the Emmett Till exhibit. Could you speak a little moment? Because, many people don't know, of course, that Mamie Till Mobley stayed in Mound Bayou during the trial. Nothing gonna happen to her as long as she was in y'all city limits. So, but those exhibits are at the museum, and even connected to two very recent films and television series that people may be more familiar with. Can you talk a little bit about what's at the museum and how that connects to the work?
We have the television series Women of the Movement that ended up being a partner with us, and allowing us to get parts of a lot of their equipment that they had in the movie. And so we had that first. And with that collaboration, we also, my dad was very much involved with one of the producers there at the Till movie. And they saw that. They said, well, we could do a little better. They took a whole room and built a whole section for us. And that was the Till movie. So we have all of that. It is all combined within the fact that Mound Bayou was that sacred place. It was that place where Mamie was able to come. A lot of people don't know in Mississippi and in the South, you can even make a telephone call long distance and call the FBI or call somebody else. You don't think of all of those things, but Mound Bayou was a sacred place and a safe a harbor for Blacks and whites all over to come. And so even the telephone calls were made here in Mound Bayou because we had our own telephone exchange. Having said that, Mound Bayou Museum actually pulls that story up and exposes that story. And even with the national monument of the Emmett Till there at Great Ball Landing there and a couple of counties over from us, our museum now provides that story where people want to hear about Emmett Till. They can come to Mound Bayou and see a lot of the things that both of those the series and the movie brought to our museum. Our museum has a whole lot of things that people try to erase out of our history. We are showing it, and people are so very happy when they come to see the very things that people have been really active trying to keep us from seeing and knowing. We reveal it right there in our museum. But let me just tell you at another level, because we know that people are coming, Mound Bayou now has a great opportunity for investors to come in and invest in a lot of things to make Mound Bayou a better place, the place where African Americans can come from across the country and from across the world to be able to see Black success, African American success. We said we want to make it ground zero for African Americanism. I just made up a word. But anyway, one of the things that we want to do is we want to revitalize this place. And so there's opportunities to do that. Now, we have small things that we could do. You can go on the museum website. You can buy this book, purchase this book. It's going to be $25. You can get shirts on our website as well. And we invite you to make donations. But not only that, get on and make a donation, $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever your donation is. But we want you to get involved with what we're doing here in Mound Bayou. We ask the African American and others to come and make Mound Bayou the place it should be.
Absolutely, Reverend Johnson. Thank you. And thank you as well, realizing that you are one of the guiding forces behind the Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance as well. People may have heard of Africatown and Mobile, Alabama, and places like that. So this isn't just Mound Bayou, but as you say, it's ground zero there. Brother Herman Johnson, we're going to close out here in just for a minute, but I want to, in looking at the website, looking at the testimonial from teachers and school children and visitors from around the country and the world, are there opportunities for becoming a member of the museum? I was looking and I said, it looked like you can be you become a member of the Mound Bayou Museum. Anything else you want us to know about Mound Bayou in Museum in this first iteration? We're going to come back to the Black Table for a subsequent follow-up with you all.
Well, you can, of course, you can donate. Also, like you said, on the museum website, become a member. But I like to see people go beyond that. I think we really need to value what's ours. And one thing that we can say in this country that is that this city is ours. The 40 or 50 million African Americans in this country, this is something that we started. And we established the value of it. And so I think there's a lot of great minds and people who have abilities and, and other things that we can come together and create the things that our founders were starting. They were actually starting a country. And so everything that belongs in a country belongs here in this city. And this is something that we can establish and become a great place.
Herman Johnson, Jr., thank you, Reverend Darrell Johnson. These are co-founders, of course, of the, in the case of Herman Johnson, Jr., Executive Director of the Mound Bayou Museum of African American History and Culture. And we want to thank you both and thank your father, Herman Johnson Sr., who paved the way in an unbroken genealogy, taking us from Isaiah Montgomery through T.R.M. Howard, through Medgar Evers, through all the way up through to today. We want to thank all three of you and encourage everyone to visit the Mound Bayou Museum website. We'll be back in a moment. We're going to take a quick break and then we will clear the table and get prepared for our next session here at the Black Table on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
back to the Black Table here on the Black Star Network. Remember to support the Black Star Network. You see why you need to support it very much today, talking with the Johnson brothers and their father, Herman Johnson Sr., about not only historic Mound Bayou, but the contemporary pulsing heartbeat of Mound Bayou today. We are reminded that Black self-determination, which began with the first human beings on the planet, of course, on the continent of Africa, and spread throughout the globe, as every person on this ball who will ever live has an ancestor that came from Africa, found itself met with the deep challenges over the last several centuries, none more brutal for us in North America than the period of captivity that we know as slavery. But those Africans persisted. And through the Civil War, as the smoke of the Civil War continued to rage, it was the Africans who found themselves captive at a place called Hurricane in Mississippi, who said, we will endure this and we will thrive. And through the work of those who are the children who came through that period, they founded a place called Mound Bayou. Mound Bayou isn't just a remarkable moment in Black history. It is a remarkable moment in Black and human now, right now. So make sure you go visit the Mound Bayou Museum. I'm looking forward to going down there soon. Visit the website, support Mound Bayou Museum, and we're going to have the brothers back. We're going to have the Johnson brothers back and their father. We're going to spend some time down there. So join us next week here at the Black Table. Looking forward to it, and we will see you next time.